All right, now let's talk. So let's go through it, starting with last week. So we had the 20-point races, and last week, as we mentioned, Hit Show wins the Withers at Aqueduct. We had Litigate winning the Sam F. Davis at Tampa Downs, and as we mentioned, Chase the Chaos at El Camino Real. Talk about those three. Who impressed you the most?
I mean, Hit Show would be the answer. He's a very diminutive horse. He's not very big. Cool horse. Sat the right trip. Really aggressive. Great ride from jockey Manny Franco. I thought he kind of willed him the victory, making that final, kind of a little bit of an early mid move, but kind of forcing the issue on Arctic Arrogance. Who, again, I think he's a nice horse. I just don't think he's a Derby horse. And he ran second. And it was fine. Hit Show won by many. The most impressive thing about Hit Show was the gallop out. Manny Franco didn't want to, couldn't get him to pull up. So all of a sudden you say, oh, this is a horse that wants to run in the Kentucky Derby. Well, the thing is, it wasn't the toughest race. Great job by Brad Cox scratching out of the race in Oaklawn, where he probably, even if he ran the same race, was not going to beat Arctic Knight. But gets the job done, gets the victory over here, and we'll see him next in the Wood. And the Wood Memorial will be the true test for that horse. Because that'll be a real field that he's facing, and we'll see what he's made of in the Wood. As far as Litigate's concerned, happy for our friends at Centennial Farm. They spent a lot of money in this game. Most of their horses are with Jimmy Jerkins. I think Jimmy Jerkins is a fantastic trainer. This one's with Todd Pletcher. Pletcher's won the Sam F. Davis 7 times. Ironically, none of those 7 have ever gone on to win the Kentucky Derby. So take it as you see it. Horse got the job done. Time was not impressive.
Competition wasn't very impressive when it turns out.
Numbers were not very impressive.
Yeah.
The heavy favorite W&L was a complete no-show. It was, I think, a huge long shot that was almost stole the race, really, that finished second. I need to see more from Litigate.
Yeah.
He was very good when he broke his maiden. He was very average when he lost the allowance race. He was decent in the Sam F. Davis. Imagine he goes next to the Tampa Bay Derby. It's a quirky track. I'm not sold on Litigate yet as a Derby prospect. And as far as Chase Zacchaeus goes, he was 0 for 2 with Robertino Diodoro. He's had all his success now with Ed Moger. We talked last week that Ed does a really good job, underrated trainer, based up there in Northern California at Golden Gate. He has a win in your end now for the Preakness by winning that race.
Yeah.
You'd imagine you have to look at the Derby. So
of course,
you see him next in a race at Santa Anita, a race like the Santa Anita Derby, the San Felipe? Do you see him, taking the route less traveled, going to a race like the Sunland Park Derby and trying to backdoor with extra points to get into the race? Or do you see him say, I'm content just waiting for the Preakness and not even point for the Derby? Everybody kind of gets Derby fever. I would imagine you got to at least try him in a Derby prep race and see what happens.
Yep.
But that's TBD at this point. I thought he ran well. He ran very well in the allowance race last time. He seems to be a horse that's getting better as he's figuring out the game. He was visually impressive. So he would probably be second most impressive, Litigate third, and Hit Show 1. But are any of those three the Derby winner at this point? I'm not ready to put a ring around them.
All right. Well, again, just quickly, the others up until January 1st, 20-point races. You had the Robert B. Lewis win from Newgate. You had
0 points. And Newgate's now out with a hock issue. He was off the Derby.
Okay, out. And then at the Holy Bull, that was Rocket Can, Mott's horse. Southwest, we had Arabian Knight. And the Lecomte, we had Instant Coffee. So out of that,
now the interesting thing with that grouping, Rocket Can, certainly impressive. Very interested to see where he goes next for trainer Bill Mott. Bill Mott had like a 3-week streak there where, he's like the old NBA Jam video game where they go, he's on fire. That was Bill Mott. It was capped off by Rocket Can winning and shadow dancing it. Or Shadow Dragon at 80-1 or whatever, running second. So I want to see that horse run back. Instant Coffee, look, cool horse, hard knocker, 3 for 4 lifetime, a win already at the Churchill Downs track. Skips the Risen Star by design to point for the Louisiana Derby. He's a horse who, like Hit Show, not the biggest horse in the world, but he's run well in these 6-week spells. He's kind of run 6 weeks between the Jockey Club, where he was 4th, or the Breeders' Futurity, where he was 4th at Keeneland, to the Jockey Club, which he won. 6 weeks to the Lecomte, which he won. 6 weeks now to the Risen Star. and then 6 weeks to the Kentucky Derby. So it's all by design that he's had these 6 weeks kind of breaks and programs. Continues to show up and rock out. If he didn't run well in the Lecomte, he would have been here with me in Saudi Arabia, running for $2 million in that race. But he stays on the Derby Trail. He's second in points, so certainly excited about Instant Coffee. And the interesting thing about Arabian Knight, look, he's a Bob Baffert horse, and he is right now in Vegas the heavy favorite in the Derby pool.
Heavy favorite.
In the Churchill ones, they refused to have him on the list, so he's all other 3-year-olds. So he's grouped up with a horse who's never run before, or every other horse in my barn because they're not listed on the list.
Yeah.
And there's a chance that he doesn't go to the Kentucky Derby and just points for the Preakness. Look, everything that's going on right now, that horse is owned by Zidane Racing, who famously owned Medina Spirit, which has caused all this controversy over the last few years. Now, last year, we said the same thing. He had Taiba. Taiba ended up winning the San Diego Derby, going to the Kentucky Derby. Again, he probably moves. He probably runs in somebody else's name. It wouldn't surprise us. But there is a chance that Arabian Knight might not run in the Kentucky Derby. And so I would just hold off on my Derby future wagers on Arabian Knight.
Okay. And out of that group, is Arabian Knight the best at this point? The one we just talked about?
It's a good question. You're supposed to say yes. Okay? He's run twice. He's won by open lens both times. Last time was in a sloppy track. The first time was a Keeneland Breeders' Cup Day. And other than Flightline, he might have been the most impressive winner on the day. He runs really, really wide. I don't love his mechanics.
So he's still a little immature.
No, it's just kind of the way he's made. It's not going to stop him from being brilliant. It's just the way that his running style. He's very, very fast. But when he breaks over, he kind of breaks out like a swimmer, doing like kind of the breaststroke,
okay,
rather than doing like the regular, your freestyle, whatever. So when you're inefficient mover, going a mile and a quarter, going further distances, does that catch up to you? Look, if you're that much better than everyone else,
sure,
it doesn't matter. And right now, you're supposed to say he's that much better. But I want to see more. Again, like JW mentioned in the comments, he's only run twice.
Yes.
He's not running back in the Rebel. When we see him next, I'd imagine would either be the Arkansas Derby, which he had the success at Arkansas, or the San Diego Derby. He'll have one last race before either the Derby / Preakness. And I want to see it again.
Yeah.
I want to see it again.
And if he continues that style, that could be crazy for a 20-horse Derby field.
It's certainly possible, but he's fast, he's nice,
yeah,
and his acceleration when he switches leads, it's like a souped up car. You have your NASCAR shows and stuff like that. He's the Ricky Hendricks or whatever, the barn that the ones that win, the garage that wins every year.
Sure,
that's Arabian Knight. He has this turn on switch that it almost looks like he's in Fast and Furious.
Well, we certainly hope we get that one more race. If he does race in the Derby, that would be great. Otherwise, it does sound like he is the horse to beat at this point. And then the 10-point prep races, you had the Smarty Jones Victory Formation was a heavy favorite, won that one. Jerome won the Aquid. In the Jerome, it was Lugan Knight winning that one. McCarthy trained that horse. Sham, that was the Baffert Sham. But he had the long shot win. Reincarnate. Beating his other two horses, Newgate, who we just talked about, who's done, and National Treasure, who was the 3-5 favorite in that race.
Yeah, and they're still holding out hope that National Treasure's okay. I'm not sure where him and Reincarnate run back. I'd imagine the next prep in San Diego we'd see one or both of them.
Okay.
No, it's interesting. Lugan Knight. I don't think that the barn thinks he's a Derby horse, even though he has these Derby points. And he's going to run back in the Gotham in 2 weeks at Aqueduct, where he'll be the favorite or among the favorites. But the Gotham is 1 mile. It's a one-turn mile. That's probably what he wants to do. Michael McCarthy, very smart. He skipped these other prep races that were further, gave the horse a little bit more time, and he ran well in the Jerome. But he's not one that's a Derby contender. Even if he wins the Gotham, I don't consider him a Derby contender. I don't think he wants to go a mile and a quarter. I don't think the barn thinks he wants to go a mile and a quarter. And as far as Victory Formation is concerned, it kicks off into the Risen Star. We're going to learn a lot Saturday night, we're going to know all we need to know about victory formation.
On Saturday night?
Well, he's running in the Risen Star. So if he were
Perfect.
to progress, look, 14 horse field,
That's
top
true.
quality field.
Yes.
He's gonna have to earn it. He's 3 for 3. He's done everything the right way, and
Oh, okay. That's the
actually,
horse that has 313s on the
yeah, he's
sheets. Yeah.
actually, when he won the allowance race at Keeneland on Kentucky Jockey Club Day, he beat Lugan Knight. Lugan Knight was fourth in that race, and from that went on to win the Jerome.
Okay.
The horse that was second is a Chris Hartman horse that came back and ran second, beating a nose at 4-5 in a stake at Oaklawn. Uh, it's interesting. He's by, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but he's by Taprit, who was a Belmont Stakes winner. So you think he wants to go all day. I'm still not convinced that he really wants to stretch out and run that far, even though his father won going a mile and a half.
I also noticed, now I haven't been doing this a long time, so you can let me know based on your experience.
You're here for a good time, not a long time, as my friend Drake likes to say.
Okay. Reincarnate, as I mentioned, the only long shot that we've talked about. Is that normal, or because I look at this and I say that's good. We've talked about all these Kentucky Derby prep races. We only have one long shot that is won, and that was a Baffert horse.
He has 0 points.
So is that normal, or is that telling you, yeah, you know what? Maybe this is a year that the cream is rising to the top for whatever reason.
It's a great question. It's a great question. I don't think I can answer it right now.
Okay.
I mean,
still early.
It's one of those things where, yeah, it's been pretty formful week in, week out. Well, not maybe the favorite hasn't won every race, but one of the choices, one of the ones that made sense,
yes.
kind of thing. And even Reincarnate, it wasn't impossible to find.
Yeah, Baffert. Yeah,
it's something where, look, will there be an upset or two? Probably. It happens. But if you look at last year, it seemed like it was okay. It seemed like there was 2 or 3 horses that were dominating everything, and then the horse that didn't even get in the race won the race. So, the long shot won at the most inopportune time, or most opportune time, if you bet Rich Strike.
That's true. That's no doubt about that. All right, now we have the Rebel, so that's coming up next Saturday. So that's at Oaklawn Park. So can't wait to talk about that. And then in 2 weeks, it's the Fountain of Youth, the Gotham, and the San Felipe, all on the same day.